Welcome to training for leaderboards and through boards for the 3 Open Championships the USGA conducts each year. This training will focus on the interaction and support available during the championship, how to use the handheld computer equipment, and a few USGA policies. This instructional video will not give you the details on where to eat, park, ticket questions, scheduling, and such. Those items should be addressed by the chair of your committee and/or the overall coordinator of volunteers for your championship. While this training focuses on the captain of each board, it should be useful for all volunteers working these boards. Scoring is truly a team effort. All 3 groups have to work together to make this operation successful. Without volunteers like you, the USGA would not get very far with its scoring efforts. And our technical assistance from USGA corporate partner IBM is invaluable. As a volunteer, there is no doubt you will be putting forth an effort. However, we want to make sure that you enjoy the environment that a national championship can bring. There is clearly an excitement in the air during these events, and we want everyone to feel the energy. Sometimes the energy is not related to the actual scoring of the competition. Scoring Central, scoring supervisors, and leaderboards, through boards are all part of the lingo that we use. We will discuss some of the background and support in relation to your responsibilities. Let's first start with Scoring Central. Scoring data flows from the walking scorer into Scoring Central through a wireless network, then bounces out to the devices that you'll be using in your leaderboard or through board responsibilities. You are unlikely to see the Scoring Central trailer during the championship. USGA staff has oversight of Scoring Central. In addition to staff, there are some professional volunteers that assist us. There is someone in Scoring Central monitoring the radio channel that you may be using to communicate, as well as seeing messages that you may be typing on the handheld device. As you can see, there are a number of computers tied to Scoring Central. These computers help Scoring Central personnel determine which players to place on the leaderboards. A human decision is made. We freely admit that having access to a television and protection from the elements is a bonus, but these folks rarely, if ever, see live strokes made during the competition. While there are professional volunteers in Scoring Central, another key group roams the golf course as a support mechanism for essentially all scoring-related functions. We call these people scoring supervisors. Scoring supervisors come to multiple championships each year and are familiar with the nuances of the scoring operation. They are in constant contact with Scoring Central and are monitoring the scoring radio channels. Most often, there are 3 or 4 teams of 2 people working different sections of the golf course. At some championships, carts are used. At others, these people are on foot. For leaderboards and through boards, they may help out with a malfunctioning handheld computer device, deliver extra letters or numbers, replace a battery, or they may look to assure that your board reflects the latest changes and looks clean and neat. As noted in the slide, these people are taking direction from the USGA, so please follow their recommendations and suggestions. Each scoring supervisor is clearly identified with shirts that say either USGA, USGA Scoring, or USGA Scoring Supervisor. Their assistance is not limited to leaderboards and through boards. You may see them working with walking scorers, standard bearers, or any other scoring volunteer. Now, let's look at the leaderboards and through boards. Leaderboards and through boards are names of 2 different types of boards the USGA uses. Their names may be self-explanatory, but we're going to give you some clarification. A leaderboard, which appears on the left of the picture, has up to 10 rows and 4 columns of information. The first column, entitled Leaders, is most often a player's last name only. The second column, entitled Today, is the score for a player relative to par for today's round. The third column, entitled Hole, is the last hole a player completed on the golf course. The total is the cumulative total for a player relative to par for the entire championship. The Thru board, as seen on the right side of this photo, has 3 rows and 3 columns. Today and total have the same meanings as they do on the leaderboard, and the last name is placed between those 2 columns. In this example, the heading through 11 is painted on the board and indicates the last hole completed. For reference purposes, this board would be located near the 12th green, and for scheduling and identification purposes would be Thru Board 12, and its companion board would be Leaderboard 12. These boards are on a platform with a ladder that has a few metallic steps to climb. The platforms are usually wooden. In most situations, a hole has a combination leaderboard and through board with a single captain with one handheld device. Comfortable footwear, like tennis shoes, are usually your best bet for footwear. Spikeless or plastic spiked shoes can be slippery and should not be worn. Please note that the captain is in this picture and is standing on the ground in the lower left-hand portion. If backloading boards are used, it is imperative that the captain periodically gets off the platform to confirm that the information on the handheld device and what is displayed on the board are the same. Another board that the USGA uses goes by the name of Monster Board. This board is located near the 18th green. Its display of information is slightly different than a leaderboard, as it shows a running tab of a player's round hole by hole relative to par. For an example, McIlroy did not make an 11 on the first hole, but was 11 under par for the championship after playing the first hole of the 3rd round. For most scenarios, whenever possible, the USGA uses backloading boards. If yours operates this way, there are handles to pull down the relevant door to change the information, but there is often a small metallic hinge or catch holding up the door that needs to be adjusted first in order to get the door into the down position. The headings are quite helpful to volunteers when the captain is calling out the changes. When making changes, the doors will need to be opened. In this example on the Monster board, a player is being replaced, as are the hole-by-hole totals. It is important to clear previous information before putting up the new. As an example, if you are replacing a player, you want to get that name down and the scores. It should be a goal that the latest cumulative information is the first to go up. This is extremely important on the Monster board, as it identifies how the person stands for the championship. Also, please note that there is a ladder. For most volunteers, accessing the top 3 rows or so on a board may require the use of the ladder. The USGA supplies a single ladder to be shared on a combination board. While it may be hard to tell from this picture, names are built by combining individual letters. The letters, as well as numbers, are magnetic and adhere to the metallic board. When working with a backloading board, you'll be working from right to left, and it is easy to accidentally display E's and 3's backwards. We mentioned individual letters and numbers a couple of slides ago. These letters and numbers come in trunks supplied by the USGA. These trunks are placed on the wooden base of each board prior to the beginning of the championship. Each morning, the first shift should open the trunk, take out the letters and numbers, and place those on the waist-high platforms. This will make it easy to access those individual place cards when you need to change something on the board. There are separate trunks for leaderboards and through boards, and if possible, please keep the inventory of these letters and numbers separate. But borrowing, when necessary, is acceptable. Those people working the last shift of the day, after receiving verbal confirmation from Scoring Central, should take down the letters and numbers from the board and put the letters and numbers back into their respective trunks. Now, let's look at the handheld device you'll be using. When the first shift checks in during the morning, it should assure that the hole number that it has been assigned to is the hole number that the screen is displaying on the device. For through board purposes, having the device say hole number 12 is not going to work very well if you are assigned to hole number 5. Many folks are comfortable just using their fingers, while others feel more comfortable using the attached stylus, or even a golf tee. Metallic objects such as car keys should never touch the screen. Please note that there are 4 touch points on the main menu of the screen, as seen in light blue. Each should be relatively self-explanatory. There is a messaging capability, as noted by Send Message. There's also a Setup button, but you should not have to use the Setup button during the course of the championship. Okay, let's act as if we tapped the posted leaderboard area of the screen. And tapped is a key word here, as it only takes a light touch to activate the screen. Pressing harder does not help, even if it feels good to you because you're frustrated. This example shown here has only 3 players on the screen. This is to make a point that you will not have 10 names on the board at all times. Early in the day is a perfect example, and sometimes the USGA can't figure out who to put up, so it leaves a blind blank, waiting for something to happen. The line numbers are helpful in calling out the changes to the volunteers. Row 4 would be a good reference point in connection to the yellow arrow, which happens to be used as a highlight in this presentation only. A reference to creativity is important. In the majority of cases, only the last name is displayed. However, there are certain situations where 2 or more players in the championship have the same last name. So the screen may display the first letter of the first name in order to differentiate the 2 players. And sometimes we have to go even deeper into the first name to make the distinction. Think of the last name Kim in connection with the US Women's Open. There may be 7 or 8 players with the same last name. We want you to display the name exactly as it appears on the device. As defined earlier, each column has a specific meaning. In this example, the point is that during the first round of competition, there is no reason to put a number in both the Today column and the Total column, because the values would be the same. So you do not need to fill in the Today column on either the leaderboards or the Thru boards during the first round. The reference to neatness really jumps out if you're working on the front-loading board. But for all boards, lining things up vertically improves appearance. And television cameras do show leaderboards periodically. Once round 2 begins, use of the Today column is added to the information that is displayed and should be put up on the board. If you look closely, you will see that the handheld device displays numbers in red and black, correlating with the color of the numbers that should be placed on the boards. If differentiating between the 2 colors is a problem, there are plus and minus signs displayed also on the handheld screens. Only numbers are put on the boards, not the plus and minus signs. Here is a visual reference to round 2, including the Today column. The USGA uses asterisks in denoting that a player has started on the back side. The physical asterisks are in the trunk inventory, and they are displayed on the screen right where we'd like you to put them on the board, right after the last letter of the name displayed. As noted earlier, the hole column is the last hole on the course a player has completed. For player C, in this example, the player finished hole number 14 and is playing hole number 15 and has the entire front 9 still to play. There is a 100% likelihood that spectators will ask you what the asterisks mean, even though it is noted on a legend in the printed pairing guide. We try to make it easy for you to recognize what needs to be changed on the leaderboard. In the lower left-hand portion of the screen, if the word Get becomes very apparent and a dark border appears around it, then there is a change to the leaderboard. Tapping the Get button will position you to recognize any changes. By pressing the Get button, changes are then highlighted. They will remain highlighted until you press the Clear button. Pressing the Clear button does not eliminate the most current information. It just takes away the highlights. It is possible that after having pressed the Get button and while still looking at the screen, the Get button's color and border become bold again. That just means there are more changes that have been received. There is a relatively easy way to call out changes to minimize conversation and to be consistent, which gets the volunteers working in a routine. The highlighted items are those that need to be changed, so you should call out the information. First, it is always necessary to call out the row number. Because the name is not highlighted on the third row, there is no need to reference that. And in this case, a number in each of the 3 columns has changed. All you have to say is row 3, red 2, black 6, black 2. It's that simple. The next change occurs on row 4, and the name is highlighted, so we do need to call out the name. And to make this as difficult as possible, we've thrown in an asterisk for a player who has started on the 10th tee. So you would call out row 4, player B, asterisk, black 2, black 15, black 4. We recognize that the name in this example is a bit generic, but you should get the point. No need to say that you are replacing Smith with player B, because the fact that you are calling out a name indicates that a new name is going up. In this particular example, row 4 had been empty, so when opening the doors, there should be nothing there. We still have a change for row 6 that needs to be done, and your call out is row 6, black 15. When only the whole number is called out, it means that the player made a par on the hole and the whole number needs to be changed. All holes are to be denoted in black numbers. Pretty simple. Again, you don't have to call out a name or any other score-related items. This method for changes really is very efficient, and we suggest that you get comfortable with this so you can communicate to your volunteers easily. It is amazing how quickly those changes appear in our example. But please note, if the entire computer operation fails, we will use the radio walkie-talkies to call out periodic updates for all leaderboards. You have done a number of changes for the leaderboard, and now you are nervous that you need to check the Thru Board screen. First, how do you do that and when should you do it? Towards the bottom right side of the screen, you should see the word Main. Touching the word Main on the device will get you back to the main menu. You can now choose the Thru Board as an option, and this will move you to the Thru Board display. Before proceeding, there is a defined time when you will need to go to the Thru Board screen, so this will not be a guessing game for you during the championship. The time that the Thru Board needs to be changed is when the flagstick goes into the hole. This means that one group is leaving the green and you want to prepare the Thru Board for the next group. And this is really the only time you will need to go to the Thru Board screen, like clockwork. As discussed much earlier for round 1, you do not need to update the Today column with a score, but the total column only. One way for volunteers to be prepared for a new group of names for a change on the Thru Board is to prepare the names of the players in upcoming groups in advance. The handheld computer should show 2 groups at all times. At a minimum, when it is time to take down the group that has just finished the hole, the volunteer team will be in position to put up the names. It is possible that the second group listed on the Thru Board does not have any scores displayed. This means that the computer does not have the score from the preceding hole, either because the group is not done with the hole or because the scores have not been entered by the walking scorer. Once those scores are entered into the system, the scores will automatically be displayed. By the way, the names are listed in a specific order on the computer screen, which matches the order that they are displayed on the pairings guide. Please put them on the board in the order that the names are displayed on the handheld screen. If the computer operation fails at some point, you are encouraged to put the last names of the players in the relevant group up on the board. We will not use the radios to update Thru Board scores. If you are able to read the scores from the standard bearer and the computer operation has failed, Feel free to put those scores on your through board. Once round 2 begins, the Today column becomes active on the through board screen. For groups starting on hole number 10, we use an asterisk. For the through board, because the entire group started on hole number 10, only one asterisk is needed. In order to do this, we take one asterisk and slip it next to the hole number in the front of the board. For backloading boards, there is not a door to do this, so go to the first row, open the name door, and slide the asterisk into position next to the hole number that is pre-printed on the board. The good news is that you do this once, and then 13 groups in a row come through that started on the same hole. Again, one asterisk for the through board, and it goes next to the pre-printed hole number. To leave the through board screen to work your way back to the leaderboard screen, you would choose the word main at the bottom right of the screen. This will get you back to the main menu. From that point, you can choose Posted Leaderboard to move back to that display. Now you are back at the leaderboard display. Please note that the Get button is not bold in color and does not have a rectangular box around it, so there are no changes for the leaderboard at this time. While you are on this screen, let's look at a couple of things. Just below the phrase Posted Leaderboard, toward the top of the screen, you should see 2 circles. If these circles are not filled in, this is a good thing. If the circles are filled in with black, you have lost your connection with the wireless network. On most days, in most situations, you will have brief periods of time when you lose your signal. Don't panic. Sometimes moving your position 2 or 3 steps will bring the signal back. In any case, you do not need to contact Scoring Central unless the circles are filled in with black for close to 5 consecutive minutes. Another item to look at is the order of scores on the screen. You should see that they are not in score order. We do not attempt to keep the players in perfect score order, and after working the championship, you will see why. Most often, once a player is put in a certain row, that player stays in the row or is taken off the board completely. The player may reappear at another time on the same row, but we rarely, if ever, just shift someone from one row to another. Additionally, on Thursday and Friday, you may see a name of a player who is not close to being in the top 10 of the field. Players like past champions or people with local ties may be displayed periodically. The board may be closer to an information board than a leaderboard early in the competition. One last item about the display of names. Because the board becomes more like a leaderboard during rounds 3 and 4, there may be little, if any, name change activity early during those rounds. This should make sense, since the players with the highest scores are teeing off first in these rounds. From the main menu, tapping the Send Message button will take you to another screen. There are 2 ways to compose a message. You can tap individual letters and numbers, or you can press the Preset button to access some pre-made messages. For the preset message, you will be able to highlight the message that you wish to communicate. The messaging function is not built to write lengthy messages, but gives you an opportunity to communicate without speaking, which is often appropriate when golf is being played or if your radio is malfunctioning. You must tap the Send button to get the message headed in the right direction. And remember, if you have black circles at the top of your screen, you have lost your signal and messages will go nowhere. Scoring Central or a supervisor may send you a message. How will you know? For a period of time, there will be a colorful scroll at the bottom of your screen acknowledging that you have messages. If you happen to miss this, you can always look at the bottom right side of the screen and see the abbreviation MSGS. If there is a number next to the abbreviation, you have messages. If that number is very big, you have not been paying attention. If you tap on the abbreviation or number, you will have the ability to see the message or messages that you have received. You can now read the message. When you are done reading the message, choose Close. The message will not be retained after you choose the Close button, and the message counter will go down by 1. There are a number of times when you may want to send a message. Such examples are during the morning shift, when you are physically in position at the board. During this time, you may also want to call in on the radio to verify this information. After a suspension for weather, when you are back in position. If you are in need of extra letters or numbers. Confirming that the weather warning sign has been posted and confirming when it's been taken down. And lastly, shutting down for the day and signing off. Your board is a key mechanism in communicating weather-related issues to spectators. There should be one weather warning sign associated with each handheld device and platform. In other words, if you are in charge of a combination board, there will only be one weather warning sign. In most weather warning signs, we have a metal bracket that fits over the top of the board that allows the sign to attach to it, or it can be magnetic. It is a good idea to locate the sign at the start of your shift each day. In most cases, you will receive a computer message telling you to post your weather warning sign. Sometimes this may also come over the radio. It is important that you act quickly and you communicate to Scoring Central that you have posted your weather warning sign. The initial display of a weather warning sign causes marshals to take action. They are required to attempt to empty any grandstands of spectators. However, there are many times when weather warning signs are posted, but play will continue for a significant period of time. The USGA is aware that in some situations, emptying a grandstand can take 20 minutes or more, and we want to be assured that there is ample time if a storm is reasonably close, but not a dangerous situation at the moment. Please note, the handheld computer devices are not really fans of rain. If rain is on the horizon, the first shift of the day may be provided with plastic bags, or they may be brought around by a scoring supervisor to protect the devices. The touchscreens will work through the plastic bags. There are times when play may be suspended. Your handheld device will receive a message, but you may hear a horn as well, and the golfers will disappear. If this happens, please abandon your platform and find the safest place possible for you and your team. The captain will learn of further instructions via the computer handheld device the moment that Scoring Central becomes aware of any plans. The following are items to remember in connection with the operation of your board. So let's review. Post exactly what the computer shows. Don't be creative. Players starting on hole 10 need to have an asterisk displayed next to the last letter of the player's name on the leaderboard. For the Thru board, a single asterisk for the group besides the hole number is desired. The hole number shows the actual hole number that the player has finished. On Thursday, the Today column should be blank. All scores above par should be in black, while all scored under par are in red, and even par is a black 0. And lastly, the combination lock for your trunk is 9, 31, 5. That's right, left, right. The lock should be removed before you arrive, but just in case, it's good to know the combination. Here's some more important items to remember. When a player has finished the round, the hole shows a black F. If a player has an asterisk and finishes, take down the asterisk. Try to keep the columns lined up with last names starting on the far left. It'll be your right from behind the board. Check the spelling of the name on the board versus the screen. Players with the same last names will have a space, then some portion of their first name. Posting changes when players are on the putting green is a good point to address. These players can be on the green for 5 or 6 minutes, so there may be an appropriate time to update your leaderboard. You will get a feel for how long players take to determine their line and such. But you want to make sure to avoid making a change right as a player is about to putt, as your change may cause the gallery to react in some way, or moving the door itself may cause a noise. Please be aware of this. Cell phones may not be allowed at your championship. The USGA security is amazingly good, and you may not be able to sneak one in if they are prohibited. So please check with your local committee chair first. Do not leave your position unless your relief has arrived. If there is a lot of moisture on the boards, the magnetic letters and numbers adhere amazingly well, to the point that they aren't all that easy to get off the board. In this situation, a playing card is a nice tool to have in order to separate the corner of the magnetic letter or number from the board itself. Platforms are wider than the boards themselves, so you should be able to watch golf on a regular basis. We would rather that you go to the edge of the platforms on backloading boards to see what's happening versus peeking through. Okay, it's pop quiz time. It's a test of what you've learned. Let's take a look at the following picture and see what's wrong with it. Please feel free to pause the player here for more time. All right, here are the errors. Starting on row 4, the N in Watson is a Z placed on its side. Also in row 4, the 3 on the same row is backwards. Haas, in row 5, has an asterisk next to his name, even though he has completed his round. Row 7, the name is indented, resulting in a less than perfect visual alignment. Have fun. The most important thing to learn is that while we want you to do your best and concentrate periodically on your work, we really want you to enjoy yourself. Thank you for volunteering for a USGA championship. We couldn't do it without you.